Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
We both have PlayStation 5s,
Mm-hmm.
which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Doug went the route of getting Demon Souls because he hates himself. And I decided to have a good old time and get me Spider-Man Miles Morales.
I guarantee you're having a better time than I am.
Oh, no question about that. Because this game's fantastic and Demon Souls just sounds like a pain in the ass.
It is fantastic and a pain in the ass. It's good.
So just for a warning, Miles Morales is obviously a sequel to the 2018 Spider-Man game. It comes shortly after that as that game takes place, and there's some stuff that involves Miles in that game. So fair warning, just some very light spoilers maybe for that game might come up. If you're one of the people who are just playing that for the first time because the remastered version came out on PS5.
Oh, good point.
Just a heads up to all of you that I might get into a couple of those things, or just general Miles Morales knowledge if you don't necessarily know the basics of who Miles is, because he's obviously a central part of Miles Morales Spider-Man. And I know that he's slowly gaining more popularity, even though he's been around for a long time, but he's slowly kind of getting that more widespread appeal. So anyway, to get started talking about this game, it is incredible.
Sure.
I love this game. I love the 2018 Spider-Man. It's one of my favorite games. And this game just takes everything it did, does it just as good, if not better, and then adds a little bit of a tweak to it to have the game fit into Miles's personality, his community, his whole vibe of what he's doing that's slightly different than where Peter was. In the first game, you pick up with Peter like years into being Spider-Man. I don't remember the exact time frame, but it's a ways into being Spider-Man. This is
yeah
I think he's 23, 24, Peter is.
Yes,
And this is this is shortly after Miles has become Spider-Man. And the setup's actually pretty good. You only really see Peter for the first little bit, and basically the main kind of point in this game is this is Miles's first week as New York's only Spider-Man, because Peter's going on a trip with MJ overseas. So he's like, Miles, guess what? New York is yours. You are the only Spider-Man in New York right now.
That's cool.
And the rest of the game kind of takes that place of like Miles always having this little insecurity of like, man, am I really ready to be New York Spider-Man? Or am I just that other Spider-Man? That plays into everything, because as you're walking through town, they're like, Oh, you're not Spider-Man. You're the kid Spider-Man. Just get lost. We don't want you. You're no
That's
good.
really funny.
And
how long has he been Spider-Man? Like, how long has Miles been Spider-Man up to that point? Like a year, a month?
it was, I don't remember the exact number. I want to say it was less than a year.
Okay. So like there has been some time passed. Yeah.
Like, people recognize that there are two Spider-Men and that you are clearly the inferior Spider-Man. And like, so like you do like all the odd, like you're doing like your side quests, you go talk to random citizens and everything, and you go up to them, they're like, oh, I thought man, when I was looking for help, I was hoping Spider-Man would come, not you.
That's really funny.
And I'm like, but I guess you can help too, even though I try your best, okay? And so this just the way the game plays into Miles' own insecurity, because there's the whole conversation of Miles and Peter kind of sitting up on a rooftop before he goes, and this is just in the first like 20 minutes or so. It's just going like, hey, you can do this. And he's like, but can I really handle this? Like, am I really ready? Are you sure, Peter? Like, what if something big happens? Like, what am I going to do? Like, what happens when this massive thing happens that ultimately does end up happening? What do I do? And it's just this constant state of him being insecure about like, can I be Spider-Man? Can I be Spider-Man? And you slowly, as the game goes through, see him building it and see him living out kind of the Spider-Man that Peter does in his own way, with his own family, with his own friends, and his own community. And it just is such a cool take on kind of the development of Spider-Man that you didn't see in the first game, because you just were Spider-Man.
Good point. Yeah.
And we all kind of know the basic Spider-Man origin story. I think Miles is a little bit less so, obviously, with Into the Spider-Verse. There's more knowledge now, but it's not quite that like, oh, we all know the scene of Uncle Ben, and we all know Aunt May and how that plays into it, and MJ and Gwen. You know what I mean?
it was kind of like unique. It was like a good thing, and it was like a unique thing with the 2018 one. Like, oh, he's an experienced Spider-Man. You all
Yeah,
know the story, but with Miles, we don't really all know. We're kind of like just learning about Miles because of Spider-Verse sort of thing. So we don't actually. It's not a foregone conclusion that everybody knows the story of Miles,
yeah,
starting out.
exactly. And I think that's kind of cool. And again, there's some different things with this one than in the comics than in the movie and all that stuff. But so yeah, so the basics of this game really boils down to kind of Miles's personal relationship. Again, into the Spider-Verse, you may know or not, but Prowler is a main part of this. If you know who Prowler is and his connection to Miles, he plays into this a lot and very heavy in how Miles handles being Spider-Man with what he sees Prowler doing. And then again, just the way he navigates things. His mom is running for city council. Again, if you played the first Spider-Man or you know Miles, his dad dies, dealing with that, seeing his mom, trying to be protective of his mom. And then just the way he interacts with his friends, he's got like the homecoming, kind of start referring to it as guy in the chair, so to speak, who's giving him all his stuff through his computer, his best friend. Through the whole game, you're kind of trying to rekindle this relationship with an old friend, and how Spider-Man goes and plays into that. And just so much of what this game does is because it's a much narrower scope. I think I finished the story in about 6 hours. Because it's so narrow, it's so well paced that you just constantly have this feeling of Miles's life moving forward. Like, okay, like I see that, oh yeah, you and your friend, you've kind of got the Spider-Man thing down, and it does have kind of that cool, a couple cool scenes that kind of almost mimic some of the things that happen in Spider-Verse. And then you go, okay, yeah, we've got that down. Now my old friend comes back into my life. Like, how do I deal with that? And like, she's kind of suspicious that something weird's going on with me. And oh yeah, I've got to like protect and you just are constantly seeing these story beats because the game's so quick and it's paced so quickly that you never have those down moments where you're like, oh, all right, nothing's really happened for a while. And I think it really just keeps building on it so well.
Did you like that? Because I think some of the interesting things with the Spider, maybe it's just because the story is tighter, but one of the things I thought was interesting about Spider-Man 2018 is that sometimes there was downtime, but it kind of worked because Spider-Man sometimes has downtime, just kind of hang out and like stop like burglars and stuff. Does it feel so like
it does it better?
Okay.
It does it better. There are a couple. There are the couple parts where it's like, oh man, like I'm meeting so and so tonight. Well, looks like I got some time to help out around town. And what you have in this is you have your friend makes the Spider-Man app where people can just request help from you, and that's how you get your side quests.
Oh, that's very funny.
So it'll just like ping a thing, and then you open your app, and it's like, Spider-Man, my cat's lost. Can you help me come find my cat? And that's literally you go help the guy find his cat, and it's just it works so well because like it's not even like the side quests like you're saying. Like they're the crimes. They're like, oh, there's a burglary, there's a car rob, there's a carjacking. You can still do all those, but these are like literally like, oh, looks like somebody requested a selfie in the app. Better go find them. Oh man, this dude's truck is stuck in the ice. Let me go help him get it out.
That is really funny. Is there like kind of like that's such an interesting idea because I heard like there was something about a Spider-Man app. I was like, okay, what does that mean? That's very funny. And because he's like a second rate, he's not being called in for like the biggest bank robbery in the middle of downtown. It's just like a guy who uses his app to ask for a cat. So that's so fun.
Exactly. And again, it plays into that whole neighborhood Spider-Man kind of thing that's always been a big thing. And this one focuses really heavily on the community in Harlem and just how Spider-Man is kind of, how Miles is kind of like, he's our Spider-Man. He's our little Spider-Man in our area of town. He's the Spider-Man that's helping our community. And they play into that whole community aspect so much that, again, goes back to his friends and family as well.
How does Harlem? Because I heard the map is very similar, if not the exact same. But is like Harlem like expanded then or something to like include?
I don't know off the top of my head just because it's been like a year and a half, 2 years since I played the first one. In my mind, I think they just added like the more specific landmarks in that area that you're kind of going to. So you see a couple of new things, and obviously some time has passed. But from what I can tell, 95% of the map is exactly the same. I think there's a couple little spots where it's like, oh yeah, we added this part for Miles and this part's a little different, but the vast majority of it feels exactly the same as 2018.
Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, just the game is super fun. It is smaller. I think that'd be kind of the one downside of it is, like I said, it's a nice 6 hours, whereas I think the first one, I don't remember time-wise, but you had lots of bosses, you had lots of set pieces. This one, there's a couple set pieces up front, a couple set pieces in the end, but the rest of it is very much just kind of him like slowly working his way up as you're trying to figure out who the Tinkerer is and what the underground and Roxanne, who's this like evil corporation, how they're kind of fighting against each other. And it's more of like an investigation, like who's doing what, how are they interacting, why is this happening, type of deal.
Did you actually read the Miles stuff? Like, did you like? Are you familiar with Miles before Into the Spider-Verse stuff or no?
Yep. Yeah.
So like, oh, that's cool. So are you? Is this Miles like, okay, so I guess the 2018 Spider-Man was like, oh, we're gonna do a new kind of spin on Spider-Man in certain ways. Is this just like a very true to the comics Miles, or is there like unique things, or is it kind of, or is that so far in the past because I'm seeing you going, oh no.
That's like pulling on like knowledge from like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay. That's all right. That's fine. That's fine.
In my mind, again, there are very clear different takes and different things that I remember from those comics and different things from Spider-Verse where they very all clearly have a different aim to them.
Yeah.
And a different like point that they're heading in a different direction and a different take on it, but the similarities are definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say it's like revolutionizing who Miles is. Again, you see a lot of Spider-Verse influence in this. And again, that was fairly true to a lot of stuff in the comics. So you do see a lot of the similar stuff, but I do think it has its own kind of feel to it.
Gotcha. No, it seems really cool. Like when you were done with it, where you're like, is it? I don't want to get into spoilers, but are you just like, fuck yeah, Spider-Man 2 is going to be awesome, sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no question. They do tease it in traditional Marvel fashion. You get your post credits tease at the end.
Yeah.
Which I believe, if I remember the end of 2018, I think I don't want to spoil things.
Yeah, no, it's
we'll just leave it there. But it definitely has an end thing that teases some things coming for both of them, and and again, kind of seeing how you take Peter and where Peter's at now as kind of this mentor Spider-Man, and Miles, where he's kind of by the end of this is kind of coming to his own and go, you know what, I can handle this. I am Spider-Man. You're right. You know what, I'm just as good as he is. I am Spider-Man. I got this.
That is really cool. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's such a fun launch game sort of thing.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be remiss to ask about like performance and ray tracing, all that stuff. It's the thing that's being sold.
it has two modes. It has a 60 FPS, blah 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 blah, and then it has a 30 FPS looking fancy. And I am nowhere near of a technical enough person to tell you the differences between those. What I can tell you is I played the first 4 hours on the 60 FPS mode, and then went and was like, well, I wonder how it looks different in the other one, and went, ooh, 30 is different than 60, and immediately flipped back to the other one.
You'll hear more about Brad slowly becoming a 60 FPS snob in the future, and it has me very excited.
Because I could care less about that up until literally the time I played this game. Really the only next gen thing, and it's been talked about and beaten over the head, I feel like, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, is the load times in this are such a game changer.
Yeah.
Especially after you finish the story, you're doing that 100% cleanup. Like, okay, like I did 100% and I did 100% the game. And when you're doing that cleanup where you're like, oh man, is it going to be faster for me to swing those 2,000 meters, or is it going to be faster for me to jump on a subway and go there? The answer is always subway. Like, it's just so much nicer. Because I remember in 2018 when I was going for the platinum and that, just spending so much time, like, I might as well swing there. It's going to be just as fast as if I sit here and get on the subway and watch it load. Whereas this is just like, oh, okay, I did the one on the top left corner, bottom right corner, and you just, because I mean, you literally click that subway button and then just fade to black and you're walking up the stairs out of the subway tunnel. And it's just so quick and so good that it definitely changes kind of that aspect of the game.
Did you find that you use that more for like cleanup stuff then, or like when like we were playing the main game? Because like during the main game, like it's just kind of nice to swing from one end of the island to the other, or we're using it like pretty frequently, the fast travel stuff. I'm just curious how it could impact like open world games in general.
I used it mostly for the cleanup stuff. A lot of the story stuff, normally like once you started the story, was either you either had some reason to swing there.
Okay,
you know what I
sure.
mean? Or it was close enough that it was like, okay, like you're basically starting the story mission at where you need to go.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes
so there
sense.
wasn't a lot of like swinging during the story mission. So yeah, the main part I used it was just cleaning up.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But yeah, it's awesome. It's great. Everybody should play it. It's probably my favorite game that came out this year.
Do I need to play it to get it set up for Spider-Man 2?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
think if you just know, like, hey, Miles is Spider-Man now, and this one does do, and I would guess Spider-Man 2 would as well, does have the, like, previously on that you can pick from the menu, and does a quick,
Oh,
like,
good.
3-minute,
Good,
does the
good, good.
quick 3-minute
Yeah.
recap of, like, hey, here's what happened with Peter, and oh yeah, Miles was this guy, and here's what happened with Miles and his dad, and da 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 da.
Okay. All right, cool. That makes sense. Cool.
So, yeah, so I would guess that would definitely be there too. So, if for whatever reason you don't want to play one of the best games of 2020, you can skip it, and I'm guessing they'll still put that video there, and you can do that. But
Yeah.
but anyway, we are Workforce Gaming. You can follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening, and we will see you later.
Bye.